Hey, y'all, it's the Roman Hillbilly, and you're watching the This Is Metal Show. Yeah!
All right, Raz. Well, listen, we're so happy to have you on. You're excited. So you're out on the rodeo circuit right now. Is that what's happening?
I'm middle of my tour, baby. 5 months into my 20 rodeo tour this year. Yes, sir.
Nice. So that I was just going to ask you how many you do. So let's talk a little bit about what you do at the show and how people can meet you there and see you. I mean, I know you're all over the place.
Yeah, so what I do at rodeo is just really unique. Basically, I stroll around with my acoustic guitar. And so when you come up to the rodeo grounds, I'm out front of the rodeo, hooting and hollering, singing songs, welcoming people to the rodeo. So setting the vibe for the rodeo. And then while the rodeo happens in the arena, all the cowboys and cowgirls are riding broncs and doing barrel race and everything. I just roam around the vendor concession area. So basically, when you go to the rodeo, you sit in the grandstand, you watch the rodeo in the arena. But when you get up, you want to get some food, you want to get a beer, you want to buy some cowboy hats, you come out to the vendor concession area, and I'm out there roaming around. I call it giving personal concerts because it's just me and my guitar. I'm not plugged in or anything, and I cross paths with people, and they cross paths with me, and I sing personal concerts to a couple hundred people, a couple of hundred times to thousands of people every day at the rodeo.
That's excellent. Go ahead, Jason. I'm sure you got some questions.
Yeah, well, I was watching. Well, first of all, I seen you got this video series up on YouTube called "Born to Roam." You're in your eighth season. You want to talk a little bit about that so people can check it out if they want to?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking because we're really trying to get the word out about that. So I'm actually in my ninth season, but that docu series, the Hillbilly docu series, is on the Hillbilly YouTube channel. Born to Rome was the name of my tour last year, and it's 82 days of traveling with me on the road on my rodeo tour. So, for instance, I went to Montana, I went to Wyoming, I'm down in Arizona. And what's unique about that is, so not only do I roam from a performance style at the rodeos, but I have a truck camper that I roam around the country and to and from these rodeos. And listen, Jason, I slow roll my travel. I don't travel for more than 4 or 5 hours a day. I camp and I camp at all these beautiful places, mountains, gorges, lakes, rivers, creek, and I capture all those moments on my phone. And I've been doing this for, like I said, 9 years, capturing this content. And so I package all that up, at the end of the year on daily episodes. So if you go to the Hillbilly YouTube channel, you can watch 82 days of me on tour on last year's Born to Roam tour. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, what would you, how would you describe a roaming hillbilly? You kind of have, but what I mean, would you say you're a guitar player, a singer? You think yourself as a personality, an entertainer? Kind of to me, all wrapped up in one.
Yeah, I tell people I do and I do this full time, by the way. I'm humbly blessed and grateful to be able to do this full time. And I tell people I do two things with my life. One, I'm a traveling musical entertainer, obviously, traveling musical entertainer. And then two, I'm a content creator. Clearly, I've been capturing all my moments of living as the Roman Hillbilly all the way back to when I started in 2017. So primarily on Instagram, actually. So if you go to my Instagram page, the Roaming Hillbilly, you will see 1,750 posts that go all the way back to 2017 of daily episodes of me on the road. And by the way, that was the impetus behind doing the 3 to 5 minute videos on YouTube. Was I was already doing it, right? So that's the content creator side of it. And I have hundreds of people. I have like 10,000 followers on Instagram. And I have a couple hundred people that follow me on Instagram stories daily. I post 10 to 15 stories every day on Instagram. People are interested in my life, and what I do, and the fact that I'm able to share joy. Joy is my life emotion. If you can see that on my bracelet, I just share joy and get joy 1,000x in return. That's my life. Yes, sir.
Well, let's take it away, Tom.
So I want to go back to the beginning here and the origins of you. I understand you were in a rock band many, many years ago. Is that true? Let's talk a little
Now,
bit
Kel
about
told
that.
me she mentioned that too, and of course, you had to pull it out. Now, listen, I'm like, I've watched a couple of your guys' show, and you've got some heavyweights on, so I am nowhere in that category. But yes, thank you for bringing it up. So let's talk a little bit about that. So in my 20s, I did in fact play in a rock band, and I'm somewhat older hillbilly, so it was back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. I was in a rock band. I had hair down to the middle of my back. Tom, we were trying to do 80s rock in the late 80s. So it just didn't work, right? Because grunge was coming on the scene. And so that didn't work out. But I had, hair down the middle of my back and did the rock band. And the name of the band, get ready for it. Because you can Google this. I mean, you can Google this and see it on YouTube. My son took our demo tape from back then, like 10 years ago. He said, Dad, we need to put this on the intranet because for posterity's sake. So beer, scream, groove. Beer as in glunk, 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 beer. I was a scream. I was a scream, and then the music we grew, baby. So it was beer, scream, groove. So we got like 5 or 6 songs out there. I did that for a couple of years in the San Francisco Bay Area. You know, played the Fillmore and a couple other places, and so now look at me, I'm a hillbilly.
Yeah, love it, love it. Well, let's talk about. I'm sure you must have just a following of people that come to see you live. I mean, like certain rodeos you come to. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little about that. Some of your fans and things like that, and how the reception is and things.
Yeah, so the beauty about the rodeo environment, and I'm just, so blessed to be able to be say I'm a part of the rodeo community, and blessed that all so all these rodeos are. I need to back up and tell you a little bit about rodeos. Rodeos are all local events. They're put on by men and women volunteers, and they're annual events. And these people, they tirelessly work, and they're all volunteering. They tirelessly work to put on these rodeo events every year. Now they have put up big money to get the cowboys to come and compete, and that's a sport part of it, right? But all these rodeo committees, they're called, put these rodeos on, and I'm blessed that they hire me to come in and to be able to entertain at the rodeo. So first of all, that's important to know. It's an annual event. So this weekend, shout out to the Livermore Rodeo in Livermore, California. I'll be there this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, for the 107th annual. So to the point of it's an annual event. And the cool thing about it for me is that I typically get asked back year after year after year. So to answer your question as far as fans and followers, it's a beautiful thing, Tom, because I get to see a lot of the same people who live in that local community. And I go to 20 or 25 different communities around the country, right? So, or at least around the West. And so I get to see a lot of the same people. And they always, some people now, because, like I said, on my guitar, it says, let's take a selfie. So people come to me. I seriously, at every single rodeo now, because I've been doing it so long, people that know me come to see me year or say hi to me year over year over year at the same local rodeos. They come up and say, "I can take my annual picture with you. You got to take our selfie." And I have kids that have been taking pictures with me since they were 14, 15, and now they're married and with kids. I mean, it's a reoccurring engagement that I get to have with all these folks, and a lot of them follow me online too. For the ones that are all online. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing answer. Jason, go ahead.
So I was curious. So like, how did you first get into rodeos? I mean, is it part of where you
Yeah.
come from? Is part of where you grew up, or
Yeah.
did you get into the rodeo life later in life?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I did not grow up doing rodeos. I was born and raised. I mean, there's a whole other question line about, me being a hillbilly and where that came from, and we can talk about it. But I grew up on the West Coast in California, baby,
Wow.
slash tag hillbilly beach bum. But how I got into it was I used to take my kids to this little junior rodeo in Woodside, California. And that's kind of how I started doing my rodeo. First got into rodeos, and I'd go to a couple year, but I was not a rodeo guy. I don't ride. In fact, cowboys are always trying to get me on them broncs and them bulls. I'm like, no, thank you. I'll and guitar. You stick to doing that because those bulls, they'll come after you.
Sure, sure.
Yes. So I that was my extent as far as rodeos was taking the kids to. But now what happened was I raised my kids in San Carlos, California, and a buddy of mine who we raised our kids together, he was from North Carolina. And he had been chasing me. So this is probably 2013, 2014. He was chasing me to play some tunes with him. He played guitar and sang pretty good too. I'm like, well, what kind of music are we going to play? And he's from North Carolina. He said, well, how about bluegrass? And I'm like, I hadn't heard it before. I'd never heard, I was, I actually, another interesting thing about me musically is I studied trombone. I played trombone growing up as a kid, 4th grade all the way through college the first time around. I studied classical and jazz trombone at San Jose State. I was going to be a trombone player. Of course, that didn't happen, but I'm very eclectic music wise, but I hadn't listened to bluegrass. I listened to bluegrass. I fell in love with the genre. He and I started singing songs together. We got good enough. We put together, 10, 15 songs. The next thing you know, we're out able to hire legit pickers, fit pickers, banjo players, fiddle players, bass players, dobro, the whole 9 yards. And I was able to get us gigs playing rodeos as a bluegrass band. That band was called the Edgewood Mountain Boys. Now, to get to your question about how to get into rodeos, 2016, I booked the Edgewood Mountain Boys into that little 4th of July junior rodeo that I used to take my kids to. And my brother Kent used to take his kids there too, partner in the bluegrass band. And I asked the guy at that rodeo, I says, hey, my band's gonna be playing, right before the rodeo. Says, before that, can I roam around the vendor merch area and just shoot and holler and sing my songs? Because that performance style, even when I was playing in the bars, even in the rock band days, if I could get off the stage, now in the rock band setting, sometimes those stages are too big and you can't get out in the crowd, but I preferred being out in the crowd with the people up close, personal. So I asked the guy, says, can I roam around the vendor merch area and just hoot and holler and sing my song? He said, yeah, go ahead and do whatever you want to do. And the rest is history, you guys. I mean, that was my first gig, so to speak. I didn't even pay me for that as a Roaming Hillbilly, but that's how I knew this is kind of special. And that's my connection to rodeo, by the way. It's like rodeo gave me that opportunity. So 2017, I'm like, I'm going to try to get myself booked on a bunch of rodeos. I got paid for 3 rodeos in 2017. I got paid for 14 rodeos in 2018. I got paid for 19 rodeos in 2019. 2020 was a bust. And now I'm doing 25 rodeos a year.
Yeah, and let me ask you, in regards to that, I think what makes your act so great is the fact that it is so unique. Like you're saying, you're a musician, you're an entertainer, but you know what? You could put together, like a great like country rock band and go out there, but there's a lot of people already doing that. There's not too many people doing what you do. That's, I think, what makes it so unique.
Yeah. Me and the Naked Cowboy in Times Square. I mean,
I was going to ask you about that because I remember him from about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I got his. I got his book on my wall over here. I mean,
wow.
he's my hero. Yeah. And especially in rodeo, I haven't seen anybody do what I do in rodeo. Now, I will tell you that from a gig perspective, I've had to hustle my little hillbilly hiney off to get hired because a lot of these old timers that put on the rodeos, they don't, if it's broke, don't fix it. And since nobody does what I do at the rodeo, I mean, they have bands like the Saturday Night Rodeo, but they're like, are you a band? I'm like, no, I'm the Roaming Hillbilly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I would think that they want something guaranteed, that's how, even in Los Angeles, where I'm from, a lot of the tribute bands, and that's a big thing out here, tribute bands, believe it or not. They'll play like a place like the legendary Whiskey A Go-Go, but they'll give them like, 1,000 tickets and they got what's called pay to play. Basically, you fill the room up with your fans, and if you can do that, you get to come back. But if not, nice knowing you. So you're one shot.
Interesting you bring it up because I definitely did that in my 20s as well with the rock bands. We all did it, right? That's what rock had. But that was probably part of my impetus to try to create I was very conscious about this, like in 2015, 2016. I was like, what's my platform going to be for doing my music? And I thought, rodeos, and the other one that was very close was like, county fairs. I could do county fairs with this strolling style of music, but the rodeo, it just all worked. It just all came together. And the unique part, the fact that I'm unique doing it has made it a lot of fun, actually.
I'm gonna throw it to you, Tom.
Sure. Absolutely. So I watched on the YouTube channel, and one of the things I really enjoyed was you're like giving life advice, how to be like happy, joyful. Let's talk a little about how you got into that. I mean, I just love stuff like that.
Yeah. So there's absolutely I call it hillbilly spirituality. So thank you for asking about that. And as I'm sitting here today, living my life, talking to you, I'm living as my true self. And I went through a process of realizing I was enlightened after my first year of doing rodeos in 2018. And I spent 5 years from 2018 to 2023 working on that. And I call it alignment with the universe. I was very conscious about it. I studied Eckhart Tolle, who was the spiritual leader that I gravitated to. His whole concept is the present, the power of now. Reality is all about what's happening right now. Anything your mind thinks differently is your mind creating a false reality, right? So the past is, you think about that. When you think about the past, that's coming from your mind. When you think about the future, that's coming from your mind. And our mind messes us all up seriously. So the work is to become aware of that and then practice living in the present moment. So the beauty of how my whole life has transpired and transformed is now when I'm on the road, I said I traveled, 4 or 5 hours slow roll my travel to the campsite, have a good time, take in the environment, be one with nature, and then go to the next campsite. even on the highway now, somebody asked me a couple weeks back, they're like, well, what do you do for like meditation or yoga? What's your practice on that now? I call it highway meditation. When I'm on the road, it's funny because I don't really even listen to music anymore when I'm in the truck. I just take in all these cool places that I get to go to. So you see, that's a technique for me for practicing being in the present moment, quieting the thinking mind.
I love the one with nature because that's me. I own
Yeah.
like 150 acres. I have hiking trails. To clear my mind, I go out and I'll hike and I'll just sit out in my woods and just, it's like the most peaceful time of my life. Watch my stream, sit at my pond, the beavers swim by. To me, that is like connecting with nature and stuff. I want to talk to you a little about that. I've seen some of your videos of you
Yeah.
connecting with nature.
Yeah, because you know what the thing is about nature is that it's a gateway to our true selves. And so what you just described, that feeling that you have is because you are connected with your true self when you're in nature. And so I've transcended to the next level, which to me, next level, what I mean by that is I believe I'm one with everything. We are hashtag we are one is one of my popular sayings, you know. And it's funny because I'm an online content creator. It's all about hashtags and they're not so popular anymore, but those are actually my mantras. Hashtag we are one, hashtag share joy. But we are one. I'm looking out at the trees and the hills here, my ranch. I live on a 300-acre ranch here in Central Valley, California, about an hour north of Fresno. And I look out there and it instantly, you know, connects me with all this and reminds me that I am that and that is me. You know, we are all one, baby. You know, that's at the end of the day. So, but yeah, nature is a powerful way of practicing you know, being with your true self for sure.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jason. You go
Okay,
to.
yeah, I was watching some of your videos on YouTube, and one of them I was watching, like you were in the back, you were in the backstage area having a pizza, talking about, well, I know this isn't too healthy, but you know what? It's what I love. I'm gonna just have a great day and enjoy myself, enjoy what I eat. And then there's also another one where you're talking about, like, you're in the backstage area. Oh wow, this event they got actually a shower in the back that I can, you know, it's got warm water, man. Oh wow. And
Yeah.
these are all things that you don't really think of. And like Tom said, the cool thing about
Yeah.
watching your videos
Yeah.
is you're so sure of yourself. You're so comfortable with who you are, and
Yeah.
it's not like a reality show if you don't. It's like this is a reality. This is
It's my life.
the real guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really and that's why I'm this year, you know, we've been focusing on trying to get my story out to a bigger audience because it's you know, it's joyful to see people I think that live as their true selves and that I'm living as my true self. I mean, again, humbly blessed and grateful to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
it. But to your point, um I think that's why I have, you know, people online, people are interested in following my adventures because I'm a gateway for them to remind them we can live as their true selves. I don't know. I just thought of that. I don't know, but I definitely live as myself. I'm authentic and it's not an act. You know what I'm saying? It's like I am the roaming hillbilly now. I'm not who I was before the roaming hill.
And you know what I love about that is you turn on TV so often these days, and you turn on the news, and nobody really wants to see what's going on in the world. And you have everybody telling you what's wrong with the world. I love being able to tune into one of your videos and see somebody talking about what's right with the world and why I'm so happy and life is good. And it's kind of interesting that you had this success, and people success is different things to different people, but I can tell just talking to you that maybe your idea of success is similar to mine, which is, you know what? I may not be the richest man alive, but I'm happy with my life. I love my job I go to every day. It makes a difference to me having a job that I enjoy going to, as opposed to one where you feel you're not appreciated and you know what's the point. And so I really dig that about you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know why we that it worked for us is because when you live your life like that, what you're doing is you're when you're joyful with yourself, you're sharing that joyfulness with the world, and then it comes back to you. So
Yeah.
see, joy is a
Yeah.
two-way
Yeah. There you go. You're wearing it on your wrist. I love that.
joy is a two-way street. So I tell people hashtag I share joy with my life. But I get joy 1,000x in return. And that's my inspiration. My inspiration. In fact, sometimes I get so much joy back, meaning people have
Yeah.
shown me appreciation for what I give out. It overwhelms me. I cry a lot. I cry a lot because I'm like, He says, people are appreciating me so much. And it's just like, I'm just doing it because I feel compelled to live this life of
And
sharing.
isn't it funny, Raz, that the successes of a roaming cowboy or hillbilly, excuse me, came later in life. A lot of people when they get into music, doing the music thing, they make it young, early on in their life. But it's almost kind of a beautiful thing that it's coming later in life.
And there's a great question in there is like, well, so how did that happen? Well, I, it wouldn't have happened if it didn't come later in life for me. In the middle third of my life, okay, you didn't ask the question, but I'm gonna tell you about it.
Sure.
I was in the corporate world in the middle third of my life. So when I left the rock band in my 20s, I said, if I don't make it by the time I'm 30, I'm gonna cut my hair. I'm gonna become $100,000 a year corporate sales guy, and I'm gonna have a family. And guys, that's what I did. I spent the middle third of my life, 25 years, doing that. I worked for corporate America. You're not going to believe it. Ask me what I did for my
What did
occupation.
you do? Yeah.
Ready for it? Sit
Sure.
down, everybody. Don't freak out. I did cybersecurity for AT&T.
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
Right. But God bless AT&T. When I came in 95 at AT&T at the very tail end when they were offering pensions, and I didn't think about it back then. But now, kind of to your point about this happening later in my life, I could not be doing this if it weren't for AT&T and that hillbilly pension.
There you,
I
there you
have
go.
I have no worries about money. See, when we have to worry about money, we're living a surviving life.
Sure,
And I
sure.
did. I paid my dues, baby. 25 years. I raised two beautiful kids. They're both in their 20s. I was married for 19 years. I'm not anymore. God bless that. But it didn't, we had to move on. But I got that hillbilly pension. You
There you
know?
go. There you go. Final question before I throw it back to Tom. Anybody that's interested, is there any like you got any hillbilly merchandise people can buy? Do you have like a CD or anything, or is there any original music or?
On my website at theroaminghillbilly.com, you can get a hillbilly love. This is very, very popular. I got a couple pieces of merch out there. No original music right now because I hillbilly up and turn other people's music into my part of my performance. So I haven't done that yet. There's a story there, but yeah, go to the roaminghillbilly.com and you can find my merch for
Well,
sure.
that way people can at least support what you do.
Appreciate it.
Take it away, Tom.
So let's talk a little bit about your docu-series. Have you thought about doing a documentary? I mean, I'm really enjoying you as a person.
Thank
You're
you.
very interested to me. And as you know, I'm a president of a record company. I also do movies, do documentaries, things like that, put stuff
Yeah.
out. I'm sure Raquel's told you. Have
Yeah.
you thought about anything like that? I know
I,
you're doing it on YouTube, but I'm talking about doing it on a bigger scale.
I have the pitch package and I'll send it to you just as soon as you want it. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I do seriously. In 2022, I hired a video producer in 2020 to do. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see the video series called Rodeo and Running Meat. So it's another playlist basically, and there's a whole bunch of video content on there from 2020. Anyway, long story short is I hired a video producer to help me put all that together, and we got to talking about this day in the life of the hillbilly concept and following me on the road and whatnot. And I said I'd like to do a docu series, Josh, and so he helped me put together a pitch package. I tried to shop it. I shopped it around to try to get funding to do the pilot episode. And the idea was we would have a video team follow me on the road for maybe a week, right? But take it, the whole series could be based on like the Born to Roam series. It could be a series of days with the roaming hillbilly, right? Each episode on the way to the rodeo, where he's at, what he's doing, and then all the experiences we have together at the rodeos. We could capture all that. So yeah, I'd love to do it. I'd love to I know you're a real pro in that area, and I'd love to pick your brain and figure out, how you can help me take it to the next level because that's absolutely one of my goals. The Hillbilly docuseries on Netflix is high on the list. Raquel knows that too.
I just tell you, you're a really nice guy. I really like that. You're down to earth. I love the thing about the nature. That's just really close to my heart because I love nature. I see you're an emotional person, and you talk about the corporate world. You remind me a lot of myself. I left music, raised my son, and then came back and became more successful.
Ah,
Actually, when I returned to music,
right
I
on, dude.
returned
Same path.
7 years ago. Yep, I actually owned a real estate company. I owned Coldwell Banker, sold it in
Oh,
2002.
cool.
When I went through a divorce, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right on,
But
bro. Very cool.
listen, I know it's getting towards the end of it. We really appreciate you being on here. We'd love to have you back again. Jason,
Thank
you got any final thoughts before we go?
No, the only thought I have is, the other thing about the Roaming Hillbilly, I think, as an act is, you have all kinds of opportunity, I think, to go out there and play with different types of acts. You could play maybe like on a bill with a country rock band or even a rock band. But I dig the fact that you kind of created this persona, and it seems to really be working for you.
Yeah, and I definitely, I think about me at the Stagecoach Country Music Festival. Why can't I be roaming around from stage to stage in the crowd at Stagecoach, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I could totally do that easily.
And, I could see when you approaching the people in charge of an event like that, and they might get the thought process, hey, why do we never think about that?
It's a matter of time, and I know Raquel is so good, it's going to happen. She's going to get me out there. We're going to get those opportunities. I believe it.
Well, you're in good hands with her, I can tell you. But yeah, Roman Hillbilly, it's been great talking to you.
I appreciate you guys so much and what you do, and God bless you. Great to hear both your stories. And Tom, we had the same path, and let's talk more about the docuseries. And I thank you guys so much for your time.
Anytime. Take care, my friend.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye bye.